Hey, how's everybody doing? Tried doing this earlier, forgot to turn my mic on. So we're gonna do this again. Well, hello YouTube. Just wanted to come with you with a quick tutorial. Thanks for joining in on the channel here, Luke Stone Studios. Uh, if you're like me, you are trying to make comics and you're probably busy all the time. Truthfully, I'm going to get rid of the headphones here, but truthfully, making comics is not super lucrative when you are an indie creator. You're trying to make a lot of comics, you're trying to get them done fast, but you're also trying to work a full-time job. In my situation, I'm an artist, a writer. I can do the lettering, I can do the coloring, although that can take me forever to do some things. I usually like to source a lot of that stuff out. I have some really great partners. I've got a guy named Antonio Alvarez who does all of my layout stuff, and so he kind of does like rough thumbnails for me and then sends that to me, and then I can pencil and ink over that. And then I've got a colorist named Patrick Gamma who's amazing. And so, but there are certain times when I have to do the coloring myself, or when I need to do that, and so and I need to do it quickly, but I want it to look good. So I want to show you kind of my method for coloring, how to render things out a little bit so that it looks really good, but it's also kind of quick. And maybe you're new to coloring. Maybe you just want to try to learn this. Maybe you're a writer or an artist that's wanting to try to dab, kind of get your feet wet and just kind of jump into this a little bit. So let me show you how I'm doing that. So right now, what you can see is over here on the side of the screen. Oh, it went away. Over here on the side of the screen is my Photoshop, and I am working on, just right now, I'm working on a logo that's going to go kind of in the corner of the videos and things like that, just kind of a little avatar logo or something. And so I've got this odd picture of me from a profile. It doesn't really look like me, but people get the idea. Uh, and so I've got this already layered out, and I went ahead and I did I did the flats on that. And so flatting is pretty easy. You just, solid colors. If you can color inside the line, you can flat. And so we're going to kind of render this out a little bit. Now I did do two layers for the flats. I did a background so that I can do some fun stuff with the background without having to worry about the flats on top. So, and as you can see, I'll turn off the line art. I didn't go in and color line to line. I just colored the areas that are going to be seen. Um, and so that's kind of what I got. So the thing that I like to do, I like to start out. I'm using Photoshop. You could probably use other things, and so the process is going to be very similar, depend on the software, I guess. So right now, I am on the first layer, the hat and glasses and skin and hair stuff. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to select with my magic wand the hat, the green area. And then from there, I'm going to go Command C on a Mac, Command V. And what I've done is now I've copied that layer and made a new layer all by itself. So now the hat, the green is on a layer all by itself. So I use that, but there's this other thing I do. Up here right above the layers, you'll notice, and I really can't zoom in on that too much for you right now, but lock, and then there's that checkerboard. You click on that, and then what that's going to do is going to lock your transparency. So the only thing that you're going to be able to touch is the stuff that has color on it. And so you can do anything with that. So like if I got a brush here and I decided to get pink, I could go right over that and it would make that pink but nothing else. Obviously I don't want to do that. So that's kind of what I do. I work with that. Now the other tool I use is a lasso tool and my airbrush tool. And so we're going to start with the lasso tool. I'm going to shrink out on this a little bit so you can see. I want to pick, first I want to do some basic highlights and some shadows. And so what I'm going to do is choose the color of my hat. And I'm going to go down here to the color swatch. And anything that is in shadow or is darker is usually going to be darker and desaturated. So you're going to go down and to the left, kind of like that. And then what I do is I just take the regular brush, my airbrush, and I will just do a quick, just to kind of fill that, the back side of that is a little darker, just to kind of give it a gradient. And then I want to do a little bit of that to the front too. So I'll just kind of go up here and pick a little lighter color. And then I'll just do a little bit of that up here on the front too. So that kind of gives me this gradient base to start with on that flat. And I mean, right there, you could probably stop there if you're not looking for much detail. But there's a few things you can do to make that just a little cooler. And so that's what we're going to do. The next thing that I like to do is grab my lasso tool brush again, and I'm going to keep on these, the brush settings are going to be the same throughout this. So I like to come in here and pick kind of some hard areas like so. And remember, you don't have to be real clean on the outside because the transparency is locked. Go back to the brush tool, go back down here, get yourself your darker, kind of your darker green. And then I like to go in here and now so one of the things you can do is you also hit Command H and it will hide those selecting marks, and that way you can kind of see what's happening down here. And I'll just zoom in on that so you can see it. So right along this edge, you've noted you can see where that edge is kind of just allowing color to spill up to it but not over it, and that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to make some hard shadows, some hard cuts here. So we're going to do a couple more of these, not too many, because it's not super important that this be really real perfect. Only because it is excuse me, it's only because it's a going to be a small little file that hardly anyone sees, but it's going to be right on the edge of the video. So I want it to look cool, at least kind of like a Picasso version of cool. And so I just come in and do a few of those. I think that's enough. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on highlights, because you know everything needs highlight. I'm just going to grab a couple of these areas in here. I'm going to go to a much lighter green, and then, oops, Z, Command H, B. So I'm going to try to call out some of my commands so that you know what I'm doing. So I do a quick highlight there. I'm going to go back to the lasso, grab this little area here, Command H to hide it, brush, go to the B for brush, and then there. So now I've kind of got this, and so that's the first part, and you could probably, like I said before, you could probably stop there, but we're not going to. We're going to make that just a little bit better. So there's another technique besides the brush that I use, and it's where I use the color adjust, and I'll just pop it up here real fast, and you'll see it's because it's hue and saturation. I use that, and I focus on this lightness darkness bar. So that's what I'll focus on, and let me just get rid of that because I don't need it. Alright, so you go back in with your lasso tool, and I'm still on this locked layer, okay? And so I still have my flat underneath. So if I mess up, I can always go back to that. So I still got this under here, and now I'm with my lasso tool. And I'm going to go in and start doing a little more shadows with this, you know, a little more texture. And so I'm going to go with the hue and saturation, but I'm going to use this lightness tool. And so that's fully dark, that's fully light. You see that? That's all I'm doing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to find just a little dark, a little darker than where I'm at. And I'm going to do this a few times in here to create kind of some texture to the hat. Give some of these folds and make it look like it's and remember your transparency is locked on this layer. So even if you take the outside edge of that like this, and it's way off of the green, and you do this darkness, I'll move that so you can see it. Now, if you'll notice, it will affect the layer below it, but when you, on the next step, that will go away. So in the next step I show you, that will wind up going away. You won't see that anymore. So don't worry about those. Just throw a few of these in here real fast. Okay. Once I have that kind of done, and I don't make them all perfect, you know, I kind of let them overlap a little bit because shadows kind of, you know, light folds differently on things. And so, but it's, you know, I'm just trying to make it look cool. So, what we'll do now is we'll work on some highlights. We'll throw a few highlights in here. And I like to start kind of on the broader side with some of my highlights. And I don't add too much lightness, just enough. See, like if I went too much, it'd be crazy. So I try to get it just a touch because I want to build on that. I don't want to do that yet. So obviously light on that fold there is going to kind of hit on that side. So I'll just add a little bit of light brightness to that. Okay, so I'll start doing that. Now I've got, I don't know, it's pretty good. And most people will probably stop there. But what really makes your comic stand out, what really makes it pop, is really strong highlights. And so now that I've kind of done a little bit of highlight, I'm going to do some really strong highlights on here. So I'm going to select these areas. And I'm going to do a real hard highlight on that. And again, it's spilled over, but it doesn't matter because that's going to go away. Do another hard highlight over here. And I'm a little more sparing with these, only because I don't want to overdo it. So there, I think that's pretty good. If I'm looking at that from over here, I'm pretty happy with that. So here is the next step that I do. I get rid of all of these. If you'll notice, all of these layers over here on the side. Let me try to get my, notice all of those layers over there. I try to get rid of those. So I go here and I would choose the first layer, put my my pen down, and then I go all the way down here to the hat that we just worked on that has the transparency lock on it, and I go to merge layers. Now what that did is, you can see it got rid of all those extra dark pieces or the light pieces that were off of the transparent area. And then I will just rename that to renders. Okay, that way everything will just keep getting added to that renders thing. Now as you can see, here is the file with the hat. Flats, renders, flats, renders. See, pretty cool. Then you just repeat the process. You go back down to the flats, you choose the wand, you grab the skin this time, Command C, Command V. That makes the layer. Make sure you hit preserve transparency or lock transparency. And then we're going to go right back in with the color selection tool. I'm going to start with my highlight, remember with my shadows. So I'm going to, skin is a little trickier. It's not as easy as like say clothing or things like that. Skin is a little trickier, so let me show you what I do with skin. When it comes to skin, I will probably bring that down, that brush down just a little bit. And remember what we did before with the kind of massive highlight and shadow. I'm going to do something very similar to that here, but I'm gonna go one step further, and I'm going to pick, instead of just going straight down and to the left, I'm going to pick different colors of this kind of tan color. I'm going to go back to the brush, and this time I'm going to shrink that brush down a little bit so that I can add some texture in there with the skin, because that's kind of how skin really looks. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do first. Once I'm done with that, then I will go back to my lasso tool, and I will pick these areas just like I did before. Let's go to that brush, bigger brush. Throw in some highlights, some shadows, I mean. It's pretty good. I'm just going to throw in some highlights now. So go to kind of this lighter color up here, almost white. Now there's other things that I could show you, but this is like the fastest way, I think, to do some coloring. I want to highlight the fact that, so that's pretty good. I'm going to do something with the ear here. You know, and I might not do the other. No, I take that back. I will do it. So we're going to go back in here and do some of these, so you can see it. We're just going to layer that in there. I drew that ear very weird, but again, I was trying to save time, so sometimes we try to save time and it looks weird, but alright. Some nice shadows in there. Now we're going to go back in with some highlights. That's pretty good highlight already, but I do want to add a little better highlight on this ear. So we're going to go in there, bring that over so you can see it. A nice bright cut on that, and then this nose, because I've got a huge nose on that picture, so I want to make sure that's catching the light. Add some highlight there, and we're going to do the same thing with the nostril. I don't like that cut very well. Then we are going to highlight that, and that's pretty good. So again, go through that process, grab all of these layers, and merge it down to this one. Merge layers. Now the skin is all by itself, but I want those renders to be together, so I grab the renders and that one, and I hit merge layers. Now it's named renders, and I can turn them on and off. So you can see it already kind of makes a big difference. We haven't spent much time on this at all, but we're going to go ahead and finish it real fast. We'll just add, I mean, we've got two other colors to do, so Command C, Command V, lock transparency, go back to your brush tool. Now we want the eyedropper. Pick red, desaturate that a little bit, brush, can give it that. give it this little pink hue over there. Go into lasso. Brush. We're going to go with that dark red here. And then I'm just going to do one other cut on this here. Just the one other cut. Hopefully I'm not hitting my microphone too much and making some obnoxious noises. Highlight that to kind of over here. All right. And then we're going to go back to the lasso, and I am going to do some of these. And I'm going to focus more on the highlights on this one. I'm going to probably do a, yeah, let's do like one shadow there. For the most part, I want to focus in on those highlights. I'm going to add a couple of oddly shaped extreme highlights in there. Make it look more sunglasses-like. So there's that. Go back, select all these layers again. Merge layers. Grab the renders and that one and merge those two layers. And now, so you can see we've got that. Go back to the wand, choose the hair. Is shift will help you will collect the other things. You probably already know that by now. If you need some really in-depth tutorials, probably not going to happen on this channel. I'm going to try to give you, if you already kind of have some basic knowledge of Photoshop and comics, I'm going to kind of give you a little more, just some kind of tips and tricks is what you'll be seeing. So this is tips and tricks kind of territory. So Command C, Command V. Now you've got those layers again. Preserve transparency. Now hair is one of those things that I like to color, I like to draw, and it's a little different, I think, than trying to do clothing or skin or any other kind of material. It's so let me show you my technique for hair. Okay, so you'll be able to see this here. Again, transparency is locked. I usually always start with the doing the broad shadows and broad highlights with my airbrush. So we'll go back to brush, and so just give a little bit there. Go back to the kind of like a lighter brown, and do that up here. Okay, so that kind of adds a little, just kind of automatically out of the gate we do that. Now I'm not going to do, well no I am, I'm going to do that. Never mind. We're going to kind of come back in here and then just collect this hair kind of messy. And we're going to go back to the, hide the brush. So Command H, Command B to go back to your brush. I want to go dark. So let's do that. Now I've got my airbrush, and I'm just going to do a quick pass over it. Instead of trying to really gradient, I just do a quick pass. So part of it's going to be darker towards the bottom of it is going to be darker, and then it's going to be lighter up at the top. So it's going to, kind of that way. As you can see it on your screen, darker down here, and work is down here. It's backwards for me. And then up there. So something like that. We can layer that highlight a little bit. Let's layer that again, so you can kind of pick different hair and grab different bits of it there. Command H, Command B, and then do it again. So now that's giving you a little more texture over it. Some of it's darker, some of it's lighter. And then we can also do that with highlights. But I want to do this area up here first. Okay, now let's get to the highlights. Add a highlight up there too. Command H, Command B. All right, so I don't usually go too much with the highlights here. Really, I jump right back into the hue and saturation tool, and so we'll just do that real fast because that gives a really cool hair effect. I'll just come in here and start grabbing individual strands of hair. And then I will darken those first. You see that starts to give a really cool hair effect. And let me come in and do some highlights then. And then you have to hold down your shift when you're selecting multiple areas. You probably know that already, but in case you don't, now you do. Highlights there. Now that is, I think it looks cool. Art is all subjective, so if you don't think it's cool, then you can let me know, but be nice about it in the comments. But if you do like it, let me know. Either way, let me know. I don't have hair like that anymore. Drew this a while ago. But it's cool. So that, merge those layers, take your renders and your hue and saturation, merge those layers, and now you have a fully rendered art on in the front. Turn off the renders, you can see the flats, and so I'm actually going to turn off the flats because I don't need them anymore. See, because the renders are already there. But now what I do want to do is down here at the edge, I want to not have this hard line, so I'm going to go to my erase tool and I'm going to turn my opacity down to about 50%. About, it's not going to be perfect. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to take my hard edges and I'm going to put the hardness and put it all the way down so it's nice and soft. And I'm going to get my brush a little bit bigger, and then I'm just going to go in here and just kind of get rid of some of that, just to kind of make it fade. That way it's not a hard line. So that's what I'm going to do with that. Now for the background, let's pick our wand, select, Command C, Command, we don't need to do that. Let's just Command hide. Pick our color and do just a shadow and a highlight. Yeah, let's just do a shadow and a highlight. Let's go back to the brush. I want to go with, I'll zoom out so I have some more room to work here and go with a much larger brush. So over there, and then get that highlight going. Over there, like that. And to me, that works out pretty good. So I'm going to kind of export that out, and that's going to be a PNG, and you're going to see that at the bottom of the page. So thanks for tuning in and watching. I'm not quite sure how long we've been going here so far, but this is kind of some of the stuff that's going to be on this channel. You're also going to have an opportunity to hear different creators talk about making comics. We're going to go through some of the process of making a good comic, doing a good pitch, kind of how to start and what to look at along the way. Just some things so that you can kind of get that. We're going to have different tutorials, and then we're just going to have some time where we just hang out and do some live videos and just chat about things that's going on in the comics world, the indie comics world. So thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell. Of course, we all need that. So have a great day, and God bless you guys.